I am now pleased to give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Спасибо.
Thank you, President. We'd like to express our gratitude to you, Mr. Magalhães, and also the whole Brazilian delegation for organizing today's open debate. I'd also like to thank the Special Representative of the Secretary General, Virginia Gamba, Executive Director of UNICEF, Catherine Russell, and Mr. Patrick Coomey for their comprehensive briefings. The Russian Federation really values the work that you do for children. President, the war started by the Kiev authorities in 2014 against the people of the Donbass have hit children in the cruelest ways. Over the 8 years of armed conflict in this region, hundreds of children have died. 10 times more have been injured. The youngest victim of the Ukrainian aggression when they were killed was only 27 days old. Children are dying as a result of artillery shelling and from sniper fire. They are being blown up by mines laid by Ukrainian army as far back as 2014-2015 on forest footpaths and near water bodies. They are being traumatized seriously. Over 8 years, children in the Donbass have been born, gone to school, lived and grown up under constant shelling from Kiev. Armed units of Ukraine are cynically shelling civilian infrastructure in the Donbass, nurseries, schools, medical institutions. Children are being killed also using weapons provided by the US, the UK, Germany, France, Czechia, Slovakia, the Netherlands, and by other countries too, who thus are becoming complicit in crimes of the Ukrainian regime against children. I'll just bring us some statistics just from the week from the 8th to the 14th of July. On the 8th of July, Ukrainian armed forces shelled a nursery school number 118 and a music school in Gorlovka, a medical facility number 3 as well, Olympic Reserve School and a children's educational and health center in Donetsk, school number 19 in Shakhterska. On the 9th of July, Ukrainian forces shelled nursery schools number 380 and 398, school number 113 in Donetsk, a nursery school in Gorlovka. On the 10th of July, school number 4 was shelled, school number 51, and a center of primary medical care number 3 in Donetsk was shelled, as well as school number 19 in Gorlovka. On the 12th of July, a nursery school was shelled, number 86 in Gorlovka, as well as a children's center in Makeyevka, a primary medical center in Donetsk as well. On the 13th of July, a Republican clinic for psychological and neurological hospital was shelled in Donetsk. On the 14th of July, school number 46 was hit in Makeyevka. This statistic is only 1 week, only happening 1 week. Over the last months, in DPR, Donetsk People's Republic alone, 249 civilians died, including 16 children. 1,493 people were injured, including 83 children. As a result of shelling, 72 medical institutions and 238 educational institutions have been damaged. But that's not all. The Kiev authorities didn't balk at directly targeting children either. For example, schoolgirl from Lugansk, Faina Savienkova, whose personal data in October 2021 were published on the infamous site Mirotvorets, or Peacekeeper. On the eve of the Day of Protection of Children, she wrote an open letter to the UN with a request not to forget the children of the Donbass. She and her family immediately started to receive threats. We turned to the UN Secretary General and asked for assistance to remove this child's personal data from a website of Ukrainian neo-Nazis to protect her. But unfortunately, we didn't see any results. At the same time, the situation is only worsening. I can inform you today that Russian NGOs have found that on the Mirotvorets website, they've published personal data of at least 327 minors. This poses a real threat to their lives. Today, we will pass on information about this to the UN Secretary General. I'd also like to draw particular attention to this unacceptable situation, Ms. Russell. President, one of the aims of Russia's special operation is to protect the people and children of the Donbass from the crimes committed by the Ukrainian regime. According to data from the Interagency Coordination Office, as of the 12th of July, since the start of the special military operation, from the dangerous regions of Ukraine, as the DPR and LPR, 1,497,432 people have been evacuated to Russia, including 392,890 children. All of these people came to our country voluntarily, saving their own lives and the lives of their children. We categorically reject unfounded accusations that the Russian authorities are abducting children. In constituent entities of the Russian Federation, we have more than 9.5 thousand temporary accommodation points working permanently, and we also have field offices to work with evacuees, who include the work of regional children's ombudsmen. All refugees receive individual support, and we provide assistance to address various issues in terms of further accommodation, ensuring food and basic necessities are provided, as well as social benefits being paid. Particular attention is paid to the Russian Federation's Presidential Commission on Children's Rights, Maria Lvova-Belova. They pay particular attention to families with minors, orphans, and unaccompanied children. Children younger than school age are provided with nursery schools, and school-age children go to general or vocational educational institutions. Many of them are provided with targeted humanitarian and medical assistance, including psychological support. The main aim is to help these children forget all the horrors they've lived through over the last 8 years, when Kiev, with the connivance of its Western sponsors, started to destroy the civilians in the Donbass with impunity. A separate area of the work carried out by the Russian Human Rights Commissioner, Tatyana Moskalkova, is locating relatives of minors whose parents died as a result of bombing and shelling from the Ukrainian forces. The Convention on the Rights of the Child enshrines the rights to life and development for children, access to housing, healthcare, education, and protection from all forms of violence. Children have a right to particular care and assistance. Russia is helping children in the Donbass to access these rights. President, we took note of the decision made by the Secretary General to include the situation in Ukraine as a situation of concern in the next report, and request a special representative to take this issue on. On our side, we stand ready to cooperate with the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General on regarding the situation in Ukraine, including providing information that we have. President, the topic of child protection in the Syrian Arab Republic is still relevant, particularly in the areas not controlled by the government. Against the backdrop of a gradual stabilization of the security situation in a large part of the Syrian territory, a main obstacle to ensuring the right of children to be protected is the complex humanitarian situation against the backdrop of a worsening social economic situation following the US and EU's imposition of suffocating sanctions. Washington should immediately end its unlawful occupation of part of the Syrian territory and its pillaging of natural and agricultural resources of the country. American troops should be withdrawn from the territory of this state, where they were never invited. In regions held by illegal armed groups and terrorist organizations, children's rights are being systematically violated. Children are being recruited to military units and involved in terrorist activity. Children are being deprived of access to education, are becoming subject to propaganda and radical ideology. The real breeding ground for this are IDB camps in the northeast of Syria, Al-Hol and Roj, where there are families of ISIL fighters. Majority of Western states persistently refuse to repatriate their children and members of their citizens and members of their families, despite many calls by the UN Secretary General and interested states to this end. Unlike them, we are actively working to repatriate Russian children from armed conflict zones, as decreed by the Russian head of state. This work in Syria has been done by a specialized interagency working commission, led by the Russian Presidential Commissioner on Children's Rights. So far, from prisons and shelters in Damascus and also from temporary accommodation in the northeast of Syria, 252 children have returned. There is an effective system in place to fulfill the necessary legal and organizational and administrative procedures. In Russia, children have the necessary qualified support provided to them. Measures are taken to ensure that their medical recovery and social adaptation can take place. President, I'd like to touch also on the situation in Afghanistan. Years of unlawful occupation by the US and its NATO allies over the territory of this state has brought incalculable misery to the people of Afghanistan. Of many previous years, Afghanistan had one of the highest numbers of recorded crimes against children. committed inter alia by the armed forces of the former government and their sponsors located oceans away. The report also reflects a heartbreaking statistic of the violations against children committed in the first half of 2021 until the rushed withdrawal of American forces from Afghanistan. Following liberation from foreign occupation, the situation in Afghanistan radically changed. We also need to ensure that U.S. returns the assets stolen from Afghanistan, currently located in American banks. Afghans urgently need these assets to be able to ensure economic recovery and tackle poverty and create infrastructure, schools and hospitals. American authority cynicism really knows no bounds, holding forth on Afghan children's rights and keeping money for the people of Afghanistan. No less cynical are the cruel actions of Afghanistan by the UK. Suffice to remember the BBC's discovery of the facts of British Special Forces killing of hundreds of innocent citizens during the nighttime raids during the UK forces' presence in Afghanistan. Children suffered from this too. Information, though, on these crimes was made public in 2018-2019. However, only then the scandal was quashed thanks to loud statements made by the Ministry of Defence of the UK about investigations and punishment of the perpetrators if the accusations prove true. As much as we understand, this hasn't been done. We called on the Special Representative to keep a focus on Afghanistan and carry out the necessary monitoring. President, in conclusion, I'd like to underscore that we agree with the proposal contained in Brazil's concept note about paying particular attention to refugee children. We share the concern of the UNHCR and the International Organization for Migration regarding the growing number of children who need to forced to leave their homes. According to the UNHCR data, 41%, 36.5 million people of the overall number of refugees and IDPs in the world are children. A particular concern is the situation in the Mediterranean Sea, where people are still dying, including children, as they try to reach Europe. Thus, according to the IOM, since the start of 2022, the number of people dying or going missing while crossing the Mediterranean has reached 970 migrants. 32 of them are children. In 2021, 2,048 people died, including 76 children. We are convinced that the most effective way of addressing the problem of those forced to migrate, including children, is addressing the root causes that force these people to leave their homes. We believe that addressing this entails political resolutions to countries of origin of migrants, and also providing assistance in social economic development, state building, and the fight against terrorism. We will continue to make a significant contribution to strengthening the international regime for protecting refugees and addressing migration problems and providing far-reaching humanitarian support, and also actively participate in political efforts to prevent and resolve crises. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for his statement.